ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं शरवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गणन्ति भूरिदा जनाः. Your words are like nectar, bring life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are on the chapter Advice to Ishan, and we'll be starting on page 621. This chapter, the main portion is that incident that took place uh, on the steps of the Kali temple with Sri Ramakrishna and Ishan, but the present section is actually a week later after that. Now, this date is Saturday, October 18th. That incident took place the week before, and this is the day of the worship of Kali Puja Day. So, in the middle of page 621, and Sri Ramakrishna had just gone into some ecstatic mood, and he was telling everybody how far the different devotees had progressed in their spiritual life. Sri Ramakrishna sat on the small couch and the devotees on the floor. They're in his room in Dakshineswar. Baburam and Kishori came quickly to the master and began to stroke his feet gently. The master to Kishori, "What's the matter? Why so much service today?" Ramlal entered the room and saluted Sri Ramakrishna, touching the ground with his forehead. Then, with great respect, he touched the master's feet. He was ready to worship the Divine Mother in the temple. So, getting Sri Ramakrishna's blessings before performing the worship. Ramlal, please permit me to go to the shrine. The master twice uttered the words Om Kali and then said, "Perform the worship carefully. There is also a sheep to be slaughtered." Yeah, this is very traditional type of worship. Usually a goat is offered. I don't know exactly what the different traditions are. This actually really goes back to the old Vedic tradition. In the early Vedic tradition, with the yajna, there would be offering of a goat and other animals also. Somehow it continued with the Kali worship also, and even a water buffalo may be offered. So there's balidan. Uh, there were always rumors that the dacoits and everything would make human offerings. Not a bali. We don't know about that. But nowadays, it's not quite so common. And many families I know have done it in their homes for generations. And now they've substituted a pumpkin or a gourd, different things, rather than slaughter and a goat or an animal. Sri Ramakrishna, he respected tradition and yet personally couldn't bear some of these things. So we'll see his attitude towards all of this. It was midnight. The worship began in the Kali temple. The master went to watch the ceremony. During the worship, he stood near the image. Now the sheep was going to be slaughtered. The animal was consecrated before the deity. People stood in lines watching the ceremony. While the sheep was being taken to the block, Sri Ramakrishna returned to his room. He could not bear the sight. Yeah, this also came up when the first Durga Puja was performed by the monks of the order. The Swamiji himself wanted to do everything according to all of the prescriptions, which included this offering of a goat or something. And finally, he consulted Holy Mother, and she said, no, it's not necessary. So, of course, we don't do any of that. Several devotees remained in the temple till 2 o'clock in the morning. Haripada came and asked them to take the prasad to the master's room. After finishing their meal, they lay down wherever they could for the remainder of the night. It was morning. The dawn service in the temples was over, and the theatrical performance was going on in the open hall in front of the shrine. M was coming through the courtyard with Sri Ramakrishna. He wanted to take leave of the master. Master, why should you go now? M, you were going to Sinthi in the afternoon. This is a neighborhood in northern Kolkata. I too intend to be there, so I should like to go home for a few hours. They came to the Kali temple. At the foot of the steps, M saluted the master. Master, you were going? All right. Please bring 2 pieces of cheap cloth for me. I shall use them while taking my bath. So this ends that long chapter, advice to Ishan. Now we start the chapter 32, visit to the Sinthi Brahmo Samaj. And the date is October 19th. So this is just the very next day after the Kali Puja. October 19th, 1884. On this day, Sri Ramakrishna again visited the Sinthi Brahmo Samaj. It was the occasion of the autumn festival of the Samaj, which was being celebrated at Beni Mallick Pal's garden house. Now, something occurred to me today when I was reading this. This will be Diwali Day. Kali Puja and Diwali, they always coincide. Sometimes they consider it the next day. So my guess is that the Brahmo Samaj is having their kind of alternative thing, because they didn't go much for these gods and goddesses and very traditional types of worship. So maybe they gave it their own name. I don't know why, but it should be Diwali Day, right? Yeah. Satubai, any ideas? Yeah. So that's just my guess, so that people who are used to observing it can observe it in the Brahmo Samaj way. Beni Mallick Pal, see, there were many of the Brahmos who were greatly devoted to Sri Ramakrishna, but not exclusively. They would still remain Brahmos, and they liked to invite him to their homes when they had these different festivals. The hall was decorated with flowers and greens, flags, and festoons of various colors. Outside, the blue autumn sky with its fleecy clouds was reflected in the water of the lake. Sri Ramakrishna arrived at 4:30 in the afternoon. Entering the hall, he bowed down before the altar. The Brahmo devotees, among whom could be noticed Vijay and Trailokya, sat around him. A sub-judge, who was a member of the Brahmo Samaj, was with them. Trailokya was entertaining the devotees with his melodious music. Trailokya Sangal, he was the main songwriter for the Brahmo Samaj. At this time, Rabindranath Tagore was just starting to write songs, and a few of the songs are in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. That one especially, that "O Lord, I've made thee the pole star of my life." That was one song that Sri Ramakrishna liked very much, that Tagore had written. Of course, after this, he'll become not just the main writer, but world famous. But this Trailokya was a very good singer, a songwriter, and very devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. But at the same time, held peculiar, these distinctive Brahmo views about things, and questioned some of the traditional things, beliefs that Sri Ramakrishna had. Master to Trailokya. That song of yours, "Oh Mother, make me mad with thy love." Yeah, and it was very noticeable how the nature of the songs changed very much after the Brahmos came in contact with Sri Ramakrishna. A song like this, first of all, addressed to the Divine Mother, it was more traditional for them to worship God as Father, Pita, in the kind of Upanishadic or even Christian type of way. But they say that some say that this was a gift of Sri Ramakrishna to the Brahmo Samaj to call on God as Mother also, and this idea of "make me mad with thy love." That there was always that question about was Sri Ramakrishna a little bit mad, not just in its spiritual way. That Shivnath Shastri had held that view that too much thinking of God, he had gone a little bit crazy, even though they recognized him as a great saintly person. But that was always a little bit of a question. So Thakur loved this song very much. Trailokya sang, "O mother, make me mad with thy love. What need have I of knowledge or reason? Make me drunk with thy love's wine. O thou who stealest thy bhaktas' hearts, drown me deep in the sea of thy love. Here in this world, this madhouse of thine, some laugh, some weep, some dance for joy. Jesus, Buddha, Moses, Gauranga, all are drunk with the wine of thy love. O mother, when shall I be blessed by joining their blissful company?"
But Swamiji, didn't Brahmos believe in formless God with attributes?
Yes.
So if they are it's formless, then how can they say it's mother or father?
When they address God as mother or father, they're not thinking about physiologically male or female. Just if there's a certain paradigm in most religions that will look upon the father figure as representing justice and dharma and everything, a mother figure representing forgiveness and sweetness and kindness. So it's a paradigm. It's not necessarily that they have any image in mind. Uh, See, because this is the main thing in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, to think of God as Father without any idea of, at least especially in Islam, of any uh, anthropomorphic human type of figure. Otherwise, you're right. There's a little contradiction. As he listened to the song, the master's mind underwent a transformation, and presently he went into deep samadhi. Coming down a little to the plane of the sense world, he gave instructions to the devotees. His mind was still charged with the divine experience. His words were spoken as if in a state of intoxication. Gradually, he became again fully conscious of the world. Master, O mother, I don't want the bliss of divine inebriation. I shall eat siddhi. Now, there are several puns. There's different plays on words, and this is very hard to really translate this statement. This Karanananda, this bliss of divine uh, inebriation, this Karanananda. Karana means the cause of the universe, the bliss that comes from God, we can say. At the same time, this Karana, or Karan, uh, was the wine, sacramental wine, that certain members of the Kartavajja sect, other sects, that they would drink. So, and Siddhi, of course, means perfection. It can mean the different powers, and it also means another drink. Yeah. So he's saying, instead of drinking this consecrated wine, I'll drink this Siddhi. But at the same time, it has all of these other layers of meaning. It's a very, a very curious, nice, a very nice statement. I don't want the bliss of divine inebriation. Of course, he wants the bliss of divine inebriation, but what he's saying is that somehow uh, I shall eat siddhi or drink it. They make a drink out of it, out of hemp, some type of thing. It's connected, of course, with Shiva, worship of Shiva, that people take siddhi at that time. But when he's saying, uh, I don't want the bliss of divine inebriation, is again with that play on words, that pun, this drinking. That why do I drink this ordinary wine? There's another song like that. When I have this wine of mother's name and everything. To the devotees, by siddhi, I mean the attainment of the spiritual goal. So it has these three meanings, and not one of the eight occult powers. It can mean the different powers that we find in the Yoga Sutras. It can mean just perfection, attainment, siddhi, realization, and it can refer to the drink also. About the occult powers, Sri Krishna said to Arjuna, "Friend, if you find anyone who has acquired even one of the eight powers, then know for certain he will not realize me. For powers surely beget pride, and God cannot be realized if there is the slightest trace of pride." Yeah, the attainment of these powers, we also have to question what motive somebody would have for wanting these. If somebody wants love of God, or they want God realization or highest wisdom, there's nothing to be gained by these things. Uh, they can be signposts if they come about through the different spiritual practices that one is making uh, some progress in the ability to control the mind and everything, but otherwise there's no spiritual value. And yeah, people can just get entangled in these things. Thakur warns us many times about these things, but uh, it's such a rare thing. I don't know of anybody who has really seen people who have these powers to become infinitely small and to fly in the air, all these different things. He warns us as if he's warning us about, going out without putting a jacket on or something. It's not, it's not such a relevant thing for us. We don't have to worry about getting any of these eight occult powers and losing our devotion to God. But anyhow, uh, he's talking to a different class of people with Narendra and the others. Narendra actually, he had the power to read minds and things. And Thakur had all of these powers, which he never used, which he offered to Narendra. There was that incident towards the very end of Sri Ramakrishna's life in Kashipur when he told Narendra, "Look, I have all of these powers. They're of no use to me." He was on his deathbed, that I can give them to you, that they may be helpful for you. So Narendra said, "Will they help me realize God?" I said, "No, but they may be useful in your future work and mission and everything." He said, "No. And if they're not useful for God realization, I don't want them." Thakur was testing him, of course. According to a certain school of thought, there are four classes of devotees: the pravartika, the sadhaka, the siddha, and the siddha of the siddha. This, I think, is from that Baul tradition. He who has just begun religious life is a pravartika. Literally, this means a beginner, someone who is starting out on the path. Such a man puts his denominational marks on his body and forehead. So these will indicate if he is from a Shaiva tradition or Vaishnava tradition, etc. Wears a rosary around his neck and scrupulously follows other outer conventions. So this will roughly agree with what Thakur calls a Vaidhi, this Vaidhi Bhakti, according to prescriptions and things. The sadhaka has advanced farther. His desire for outer show has become less. He longs for the realization of God and prays to him sincerely. He repeats the name of God and calls on him with a guileless heart. So now, not that he doesn't follow conventions, not that he doesn't or she have to do a certain amount of japa and all of that, but gradually the formalities become less and less and less. There's not such a stark distinction between this Vaidhi Bhakti and this Anuraga. And gradually, month by month, we start to, like the daughter-in-law about to give birth to the child, they become less and less. The sadhaka has advanced farther, yes. His desire for outer show has become less. He longs for the realization of God and prays to him sincerely. He repeats the name of God and calls on him with a guileless heart. Now, whom should be called the siddha? Siddha is someone who's attained the goal, someone who has uh, reached some type of state of perfection, attainment. He who has the absolute conviction that God exists and is the sole doer. He who has seen God. So this is the realized soul, we can say. Now we're getting almost the same distinction between the jnani and the vijnani. Very, very similar type of thing. Someone who has realized God has that doubts are gone, has that conviction that God exists, God is real, God dwells within as the real self, that God is the real doer within, is a very high state, that they don't find their own individual ego, they find God alone dwelling in there. So God will be the self and the doer and the agent. So that seems to us to be the highest state. This is, and generally, this is considered the ultimate goal. For Sri Ramakrishna, there's something a little bit higher, and according to this tradition, that also agrees with that. So, who is the siddha of the siddha? He who has not merely seen God, but intimately talked with him as father, son, or beloved. So, the, the Vijnani has that experience. As Ramakrishna says, the Vijnana state is uh, realizing God in a very special way. That uh, the state of jnana will be that merging in God, that realization. Coming back down after that, one sees things differently in this world. And for the bhakta, it'll be in very personal terms. That really one hears the voice of God, one speaks to God, one has this overflowing devotion. All of these things will be the signs of the vijnani on the path of devotion. For the jnani, someone following the path of knowledge, who comes down from that highest state, uh, they'll have their own type of vision of this world. It won't necessarily be the same because they have a different type of ego. It's how Sri Ramakrishna explains it. The bhakta has the ego of devotion, and the jnani has the ego of knowledge. And this ego of knowledge, say for Shankaracharya, he may have some type of devotion also, but it'll be more uh, this. The world appears a little bit like a dream. That always conscious of the higher self, always feeling oneself to be the witness, not so much always for Sri Ramakrishna, always feeling oneself to be the child of the Divine Mother. They're not mutually exclusive. They're different moods and attitudes according to the path that they follow to get to their state of realization. The Baals who have this tradition of these four different classes of devotees, uh, they belong mostly to uh, a devotional type of movement, but it's one based more on direct experience and mystical, a lot of mystical language and everything, so that it's a very high type of experiential, even jnani type of devotion. Yeah, the Sufis and Baals are all in India, Bengal especially, are almost indistinguishable. And this Baal movement, uh, there'll be there'll be no distinction between Hindus and Muslims. So the Muslims will be more like from the Sufi tradition and everything. Yeah, the Sufis are very good example that they'll also have a type of ecstatic communion with God, and at the same time, go beyond all conventions and not be restricted to anything, just like the bowels. Very a similar type of thing.
Did they have any like head or figurehead or something of these bowls? And were they only in Bengal or other places too?
They had many different. There would be different saints that would come up. Say there's Lalon Fakir, but he never considered himself the head of a movement or anything like that. When we get to this Karita Bhaja sect in Kolkata, then our Vaishnav Charan was considered to be the leader of that sect, and they also did these Bao types of things. I don't know. Uh, there were never such a easily predictable way to categorize all of these groups
So were they
because they didn't self-identify so much. We're Baos, like that.
Vaishnav, Tantric, or Kali Puja or what?
They could be Vaishnavas. Many of them were worshippers of Chaitanya Deva. They came from that Vaishnava tradition. They could be Shaktas. They could definitely be worshippers on Mother side. They could be anything. And they could be Sufis. Yeah, they can call on God as Allah. Yeah, they were perfectly free from convention and no caste distinction, no religious distinction. That they were really outside the pale. Yeah. Most of my knowledge of this comes from this film on the life of Lalan Fakir. This Mon Hermanos, very beautiful film, and we see how free it was. He would never identify himself either as Hindu or Muslim. Yeah, and everything is to. They may worship God as a mother of this or that, but is always to the unknown, to the mysterious, that which is beyond. Alek, this election. Many of these things that Thakur talks about go to this is about tradition. Yeah. And I don't know how familiar he was. We never hear the name of this Lalan Fakir, who was a little bit earlier than him. But he knew some of the songs. Some of the songs in the gospel, I think, are his songs. Yeah. And he'll talk about the tradition and everything. So we knew about it. But it was always a little bit outside of the pale of polite society, because they could also have men and women doing sadhana together, and also taking their wine and other things. So they didn't have any rules; they were beyond the rules of society. Yeah, but sincere people generally, and many of the songs, the beautiful songs that we have. Thakur is going to. We'll get to that. Doom, doom, doom. They're very typical of the Bao type of idea. They didn't care much for gods and goddesses. A lot of it was this guru worship. The Karta Bhaja, it means the Karta means the guru, and everything dwelling within. It's and everything esoteric, deep esoteric meanings for different things, so that they could sing these songs and ordinary people wouldn't understand them. They had their own language, almost you could say. Hmm? Govindarai, yeah. When we talk about Sri Ramakrishna's Islamic sadhana, that it was from the Sufi tradition. So, but at the same time, he was a Muslim. At the same time, he did namaz, and Thakur he learned those things. So it wasn't that he was kind of cheating. I'll say it's Islamic sadhana. No, he really did that. He dressed and wanted to eat like the Muslims and everything, did namaz, but at the same time, the Sufi tradition is very liberal tradition, and for that reason, they're also considered by very Orthodox Muslims as heretics. Yeah, I mentioned this before. I attended one in a religious uh, conference once in Los Angeles, and there was one representative. He was Egyptian of Islam, and I asked him, "What about the Sufis?" And he gave an interesting answer that there's a little bit of Sufi in the heart of every Muslim. Now, yeah, a little bit, but at the same time, there may be a lot of resentment against them also. So there'll be, uh, And again, the poems of the Sufis are considered to be the most beautiful in Islam. So there's a real contradiction within Islam that some of the most beautiful songs are these beautiful poems of uh, Hafiz and Rumi and everything. And at the same time, there'll be some that say, no, you can't have any singing, dancing, or anything. And then you'll have these dervishes, everything is with his dancing and singing and everything. So, yeah. Most religions have these two sides. There's a traditional side, conventional side, and the esoteric or sometimes monastic side, and sometimes tradition of great saints and everything. And they have to balance it somehow. The traditions that we have that came out of India, Hinduism and Buddhism and uh, Jainism and everything, don't have that conflict. This is one difference that I've seen, that they'll all have respect for these great God-realized souls and ecstatic souls and everything. They may not follow them or anything, but say Chaitanya Deva or even Sri Ramakrishna, if he came out of some other traditions, that there will be some Orthodox people who say it's a heresy and doing all of these things. Even some Orthodox Hindus thought it was, yeah, that giving food meant for mother to the cat and things like that. Even some of them felt like that also. So he's again talking about the difference between siddha and the siddha of the siddha. And we can say exactly the difference between the jnani and the vijnani. Someone who has realized God and someone who has come down from that state and now sees everything filled with the divine. It is one thing to believe beyond a doubt that fire exists in wood, but it is quite another to get the fire from the wood, cook rice with its help, appease one's hunger, and so be satisfied. These are two entirely different things. So this will actually the the jnani or the siddha will be a little bit more than just having a belief about these things. This will be more difference between the sadhaka probably and the siddha. No one can put a limit to spiritual experience. Now, again, this probably will apply more to those following a devotional path. If we think of the strictly Upanishadic type of jnana yoga, then it'll be that ultimate experience, and then it doesn't have to. There's no doubt, nothing. The job is done completely. On the devotional path, uh, Thakur gives the example of these firecrackers that have boosters and stages, these rockets, huh? That one goes off and then another goes off, and another goes off. And for the jnanis, it may just be one. It may be a big one and everything. But for the devotees, there'll be all sorts of different types of experiences, one after another. Thakur, of course, he's talking from his own experience.
So, Swamiji, what is that state that, the different disciples of Ramakrishna had? Like Swamiji says in several places, that state stayed with me for 3 days or 5
Yes, so
days.
this is the question. What is that state that after some ecstatic experience, that some mood, there'll be some lingering effect? It happened in the life of Sri Ramakrishna many, many, many times. And 3 days was very typical for him for some reason. So when he was just uh, 11 years old, huh? When he played the role of Shiva, and he went into that ecstatic mood or some types of samadhi at that time. He said that mood remained with me for 3 days, and then afterwards he came back down a little bit to the normal plane. So the experience is so profound that the mind doesn't come all the way down so quickly. It takes a little time. For Sri Ramakrishna, 3 days was some special thing with him, that when he did all of his different sadhanas, tantric sadhanas, he used to say many of them after 3 days he would complete it. Some he would do right away. So this is that lingering effect. Lingering effect.
It's often nirvikal samadhi.
Oh, it can be after anything. Even if we may have a dream We may have some very profound type of dream, and we'll wake up and we'll feel some special type of joy with us that it may last a few days and gradually becomes less, and then we're our old selves again. Or we meet a friend we haven't seen for years, and then we have such a nice meeting with them and everything that that little glow it'll linger for a while. It's a very natural thing. Yeah. So with spiritual things, it'll be stronger, of course, but I think it's just that same phenomenon. No? Huh? No? Yeah.
Happened with Swamiji also, like when one thing he started bumping against the gates and the walls, remember?
Yes. When that incident when Sri Ramakrishna touched Swamiji, uh, Swamiji was making fun of this uh, idea that Brahman has become all this. So he and Hazara, because Thakur wanted him to read from the Ashtavakra Samhita and had these ideas. Hazara and Swamiji and Narendra were laughing, making jokes. Oh, so this pot is God. This table is God. This chair is God. Laughing and everything. So Thakur just came up and said, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And then just touched him. Yeah, he gave him some experience where the mind went to a completely different level, where he saw everything as uh, manifestation of consciousness somehow. So he saw everything as divine, and it lasted, I don't know, was it 3 days or longer even? It depends on the how profound the experience is. I don't think there's anything, you know, sacrosanct about 3 days. Could be less, could be more, depending on the depth and the intensity of the experience. So no one can put a limit to spiritual experience. He's not saying God realization, and it may be God realization, but in different ways through different paths, and it may just be that different people will have different types of experiences. You'll have the Vaishnava saints, you'll have Christian saints. They'll all have different experiences. They'll have visions of Christ or Krishna, whatever it is. It's that same divine reality coming in the form that they've been worshiping. Yeah, and for Sri Ramakrishna, he did so many different types of sadhanas that each one would give him a different type of experience and realization. Now, we may say this in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, this will be the same for everyone. Because the mind is perfectly still at that time. But at the same time, coming back down, they even may experience it or explain it differently or have a different understanding of what happened. If you refer to one experience, there's another beyond that, and still another, and so on. In an ecstatic mood, referring to the Brahmos. They are Brahmagyanis. They believe in the formless deity that is good. So Thakur used to refer to them as Brahmagyanis, but also he used to say that you're bhaktas. He didn't really consider them to be full gyanis because they believed in a personal aspect of God, not with form, of course, but to call on God through prayer and singing and everything. So he considered them bhaktas, but he would refer to them that way, as the modern Brahmagyanis sometimes. They believe in the formless deity that is good. So he's not saying that's best. He's not saying that's good for everybody. It's for them. It's good. He has no problem with that at all. To the Brahmo devotees, be firm in one ideal, either in God with form or in the formless God. Now, this also requires a little bit of deep thought about what Sri Ramakrishna is trying to say, because his real conviction and experience is that God is both with form and without form, and that it's not an either or. But what he's saying is that when we do our spiritual practice, whichever of the two we prefer, we should remain firm in that, understanding that this is not the final or the only way of looking at it. But it's this idea of nishtha, that we have to have firm faith in the particular path that we choose, knowing that everyone else has the equal right to have firm faith in the path that they choose. But that we shouldn't be jumping around from here to there. Now, we may have a firm conviction in this formless aspect of it, both of them being equally true and equally real. But just so we remain firm with whatever our understanding is, and not go back and forth and jump around too much. So be firm in one ideal, either in God with form or in the formless God. Then alone will you realize God, otherwise not. Because we have to, the nishtha is very, very important in the teaching of Sri Ramakrishna, that as much as we want to be liberal and accept the truth and validity of all paths, we have to stick very strongly to the path that we've chosen, and not try to jump from one thing to the other or try to mix things up too much. I mean, there are many people who are able to combine somehow two different paths into one, and it's okay, it works for them. But in general, especially with the Ishta Devata idea, the more we can stick to that one particular path, the better for us. Now, when it comes to something like the different yogas, does that also mean that we have to either be strictly jnanis or strictly bhaktas and everything? No. That and this is especially strong teaching of Swamiji and other direct disciples, that we should harmonize and integrate all of them, and be equally active and meditative and contemplative and devotional if we can. That's the best type of path, according to the nishtha of that path that we've chosen. So there are two different things. That we're very firm in this spiritual ideal and path that we have, but we manifest it in different ways, devotionally and content through contemplation and other things. With firm and unwavering belief, the followers of God with form will realize him, as will those who speak of him as formless. So Sri Ramakrishna, he's always trying to open the minds of the Brahmos a little bit. They thought of themselves as very liberal, that to hear their songs, that accepting Jesus and Moses and Buddha and Christ, all of that is very liberal. But when it came to this idea of worshiping God with form and image worship, they weren't liberal at all. Yeah, they were a little bit fanatical. You had to sign a form if you wanted to join, that you wouldn't go into a temple and bow down before an image and everything. So he's always trying to break that tendency in the Brahmos. That and he does it in such a nice way. Say this worship of Radha and Krishna. Now, this is a very extreme form of highly devotional, this Mother Bhava, that he knows they're not going to be attracted to. But he says, look, you don't have to accept it. You don't have to believe even that they were real. You don't have to believe that the divine incarnation. But look at this ideal that we have of this one-pointed love and devotion that Radha has for Krishna. Try to assimilate that. Try to bring that into your spiritual practice. It'll be very helpful for you. So he had his own way of kind of opening the eyes and expanding the minds of the Brahmos that way. So this is why he'll make many statements like this. With firm and unwavering belief, the followers of God with form will realize him, as will those who speak of him as formless. You may eat a cake with icing, either straight or sidewise. It will taste sweet either way. So it's the same reality. It's not that God with form is here and God without form is there. You decide, do I like this one or I like that one? It's the same, seen from different perspectives or with the different understandings. But you must have firm conviction. You must pray to him wholeheartedly. Do you know what the God of worldly people is like? It is like children saying to one another while at play, I swear by God. They've learned the word from the quarrels of their aunts or grandmothers. Or it is like God to a dandy, the dandy, all spick and span, his lips red from chewing betel leaf, walks in the garden, cane in hand, and plucking a flower, exclaims to his friend, Ah, what a beautiful flower God has made. But this feeling of a worldly person is momentary. It lasts as long as a drop of water on a red hot frying pan. Now, this other question comes up. Do we have firm conviction? Who can say that they have firm conviction that God can be realized, that we can speak to God? God is our very own mother, father. God is the real doer. That type of firm conviction comes after realization. We can have the firm conviction that this is the ultimate truth and the ultimate goal, and this is what we want to devote our lives to. We can that have that firm conviction that we hear from the lips of Sri Ramakrishna that he realized it, others have realized it. It makes sense to us, and uh, we can be convinced that this is the type of life that I want to lead, without having that, or knowing that the real conviction will come after experience. Again, he'll say the same thing. You must be firm in one ideal. Dive deep. Otherwise, you cannot get the gems at the bottom of the ocean. Now, this is another teaching method of Sri Ramakrishna. He'll make a statement which is really quoting from a song, then he'll sing the song. He does it so many times. It's a very nice way of doing it. You cannot pick up the gems if you only float on the surface. With these words, the master sang in the sweet voice in the sweet voice that had bewitched the hearts of devotees like Keshav. Now, Keshav had passed away just earlier, but Keshav also, I mean, he was the one Brahmo who really appreciated Sri Ramakrishna and loved him. They had a very sweet and beautiful relationship. So this will be a bow song. This beautiful song. Dive deep, O mind, dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. This, the whole song isn't given here, but it talks about this. What is this uh, eternal reality that we're trying to reach? There's Vrindavan of the heart. So this is a typical idea of the Sufis. They'll take everything as being symbolic. Where does this eternal playground of the Lord exist? Within the heart. Everything is interior. Yeah, this esoteric type of idea, and this ocean of God's beauty. So this Rup Shagar, that it means our own consciousness that dwells within our heart, that reality that we experience is not someplace else, and is not something else. And this divine realm, Vrindavan, Vaikuntha, whatever it is within the heart. There's no outer heaven or outer. It's everything very beautiful Sufi tradition, or Bao and Sufi tradition, and Vedantic tradition, that we find everything within ourselves. The devotees felt as if they were in paradise itself. Master to the Brahmos, dive deep, learn to love God. Yeah, learn to love God. Yeah, this, growing up in this country, we hear all of the time, love God, love God. I used to wonder, how did anyone do that? And now, is it possible to learn that? Yeah, how do we learn to love God? Holy company. We have to be in the presence of those who really have that, and feel it and taste it, and just see the joy that comes from it. And then we have to have some concept of God as being not abstract, something real, and something filled with joy and bliss, and something close and intimate dwelling within our hearts, the closest thing to us. There's another Sufi idea that God is closer to us than the, what is it called? Or the vessel that's in the in the neck,
Jugular.
huh?
Jugular.
Jugular vein, huh? Something like that. Yeah. Anyhow, that this concept of worshiping God, there has to be that intimacy also, and for Sri Ramakrishna, uh, there has to be some personality. And he says the easiest way is with the avatar. And now, when we get to Sri Ramakrishna himself, his personality is so lovable. So, how do we do it? How do we learn to love God? We immerse the mind in the thought of God. That means the whole day in and day out, we immerse ourselves in this lila, this divine play, in this meditation on the divine personality, reading this gospel, all of these things, and love grows. It happens. How do we love another person? We spend as much time with them as possible. We try to put ourselves in their shoes, feel what it's like to be like them, feel what it's like to be in a state of union with them. So we do all of the same things. The whole bhakti movement in the bhakti tradition uh, is based on this idea of taking the human love that we understand through relationships and superimposing that on this divine relationship. So we know what it feels like to feel that for the mother to love the child, or the child to feel the love of the mother, for the lover and the beloved, the longing that they have to be in a state of union with each other. So he says, arop kora. So take this and uh, let the mind be dyed in that bhava, in that feeling, and let it nurture. We have to nurture it and mature it, and we do this by focusing the mind. We have that beautiful Gita verse in chapter 12. This is, I think, one of the most important verses that Sri Krishna says that uh, keep your mind engaged in me. Think about me, worship me, do everything like that. Uh, if you do that, you'll live in me. This is will live there. I like this idea so much that if the mind is constantly thinking about Sri Ramakrishna and being with him, sitting in his room in Dakshineswar, then we live. That's where we live. We don't live where this physical body is. We're not just a part of this animal kingdom. We live where the mind is. These Vaishnavas, uh, really, I think those who follow this particular type of path, this Pushti Marga and other things, they live in Vrindavan. That's all. Their mind is there day and night. Thakur's devotee mind can be day and night with him in Dakshineswar. There'll be these great Christian saints that day and night they're just thinking of the play of Christ, and all different traditions like that. So learn to love God. There are things that we do, but there's a holy company. If we're with people who have that, and then this is the greatest blessing. Plunge into divine love. You see, I've heard how you pray, talking to the Brahmos. Why do you Brahmos dwell so much on the glories of God? Is there such great need of your saying over and over again, O God, you have created the sky, the great oceans, the lunar world, the solar world, and the stellar world? Everyone is wonderstruck at the mere sight of a rich man's garden house. People become speechless at the sight of the trees, the flowers, the ponds, the drawing room, the pictures. But alas, how few are they who seek the owner of all these. Only one or two inquire after him. He who seeks God with a longing heart can see him, talk to him as I am talking to you. Believe my words when I say that God can be seen. But to whom am I saying these words? Who will believe me? Yeah. See. Now, if he's still in this ecstatic state, the mind is coming down, then he realizes that as sincere and good-hearted and devoted these Brahmos are, they're not going to be the ones. It'll be just this handful of direct disciples that will really be able to fully assimilate that type of teaching. Yeah, we accept it and believe it because Thakur said it. Otherwise, how can I say that from a logical point of view that I'm waiting for God to start talking to me? And what language will it be in? Will it be in Bengali? Will it be Sanskrit? Will it be English? How objective? How subjective? These are all things that this critical mind starts the question. For Sri Ramakrishna, wait, have that experience. It'll be beyond language even. For Sri Ramakrishna, he must have heard it in Bengali, of course. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's just our own minds doing it. It's divine coming through the mind somehow. Yeah, these are all mysterious things. I don't think it makes too much sense to try to rationally understand these things. Achintya, the verse, those things which are beyond the imagination, don't try to apply logic to them. Can one find God in the sacred books? By reading the scriptures, one may feel at the most that God exists. But God does not reveal himself to a man unless he himself dives deep. This means in meditation, in prayer, in contemplation, with a full concentration, with a full depth of feeling, with a full heart involved in the process, with great sincerity. Only after such a plunge, after the revelation of God through his grace, is one's doubts destroyed. So this is why I say that conviction doesn't mean doubts are gone. It won't happen till the very end. We can have a different type of conviction, though. You may read scriptures by the thousands and recite thousands of texts, but unless you plunge into God with yearning of heart, you will not comprehend him. By mere scholarship, you may fool man, but not God. Scriptures and books. What can one achieve with these alone? Nothing can be realized without his grace. Strive with a longing heart for his grace. Through his grace, you will see him and he will talk to you. He or she. The Bengali language doesn't distinguish between them. I think in Thakur's mind, probably she is more appropriate. It's my feeling. Subjudge. Sir, does God show more grace to one than to another? If so, he can be accused of the fault of partiality. Vaishamya dosha. This is, I never understood this, but it's a very common theme that the Brahmos and others, Vidyasagar and others, why would anybody think that everybody is entitled to the same amount of grace? We have our karma, we're all different and everything, but somehow they're ready to say that God is not fair. He should shower his grace equally on everybody. So they're finding fault in God, actually finding fault in the doctrine. If you believe that he shows his grace to one another. And yet, that's the very definition of grace, from a Western point of view at least, that it's undeserved, that it can be given to any one person at any time, almost just as grace, with no cause behind it or anything.
This was Ishan volume 3.
Uh-huh.
We discussed this segment.
Uh-huh.
Like some people say, why there is more grace or no.
Yes.
So his interpretation, the way he gave was that God is, whoever the God is everything. So the one who has more and the one who has less, both are God himself. So who is giving to who?
Yeah, that's too complicated. No, we can simply say the easiest way to understand it, God is the wish-fulfilling tree, but you have to stand under it. Those who are far away, they're going to accuse God of being unkind for not doing anything. You got to go there. Yeah, it's a very simple way of understanding it. The others, of course, very deep way of understanding. Master, what are you saying? Do you mean to say that the moon and a glowworm are the same? Yeah, Thakur would get annoyed because there's no depth of thinking to the question. I don't see, at least. Do you mean to say that the moon and a glowworm are the same, though both give light? Ishwar Vidyasagar asked me the same question. He said, "Is it a fact, sir, that God gives more power to one and less to another?" God, I said, exists in every being as the all-pervading spirit. He is in the ant as well as in me, but there are different manifestations of his power in different beings. Shakti Vishesh, this is the way Thakur explains it. If all are the same, then why have we come here to see you, attracted by your renown? Have you grown a pair of horns? Oh no, it is not that. You have compassion, you have scholarship. There's a greater degree of these virtues in you than in others. It's all a question of our karma and our samskara, isn't it? That is the reason you are so well known. Don't you see that there are men who single-handed can defeat 100 persons? Again, one man takes to his heels in fear of another. You see such a person too. If there are not different manifestations of power in different beings, then why did people respect Keshav Sen so much? He's giving that example because the Brahmos all respected him so much. It is said in the Gita that if a man is respected and honored by many, whether it be for his scholarship or his music or his oratory or anything else, then you may know for certain that he is endowed with a special divine power. A Brahmo to the sub-judge, why don't you accept what he says? Master, sharply to the Brahmo, what sort of man are you to accept words without conviction? Why, that is hypocrisy. I see you are only a counterfeit. The Brahmo was much embarrassed. Then we start a new conversation. Sub-judge will ask about renouncing the world. We'll start with that. We'll start with that next time. So we're finishing at the top of page 626. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukam Bhatadu Vikraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshabhidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who was stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Okay. Thank you all for coming. And again, wishing everybody a very happy, healthy, blessed New Year. Thank you. District.